if we'd have spent the same on transport in the north of England as they spent in London over the last 10 years, we would have spent an extra £66 billion on putting transport infrastructure in. Now, you know and I know that's desperately needed across the north of England. And this pledge to level funding across the whole of the country will hopefully see these figures reversed.
Now, I was looking at these figures and it said public spending was higher in real terms in 2019 than in the sort of England average, but by 2021 it had fallen behind. But if you dig into those figures, that was a bad time for lockdowns in the north, who suffered considerably during that time, and it was in lockdown for longer. So, you know, are these figures really revealing what's going on and the sort of expenditure in the north?
Well, I've been looking at the figures over the last decade, Esther, and you know from our time together in government, it's a constant battle with the Treasury to try and get them to spend more money in the north of England. We have a sort of, a system where the cards are stacked against the north of England. They're stacked against less developed areas like Cornwall and the East Midlands. And it's a huge battle. And what the pledge with the Northern Research Group has got these candidates to sign up to is a formulaic guarantee that we'll spend the same in the north as spent in London. And you don't just look back over lockdown, you're absolutely right that that has been a very difficult period. If you look back over 10, 15, 20 years, this is a trend that we need to reverse.
And I'm going to sort of level a little bit of criticism now at the Northern MPs. And I'm wondering, did they show huge naivety? So instead of just focusing on what they needed for transport across the north, instead they were lobbying for HS2 and therefore lost, as I would see it, money for the north. So was there an element of naivety with Northern MPs?
Well, I mean, look, I think Northern MPs have been clear, and I'm always really clear that I don't work for the government. I work for the people of Rosendale and Darwen who send me there. I know my colleagues feel the same. We have this Levelling Up fund, which many MPs have bid into. That, first and foremost, is what priorities you create for your constituency and where you live. There are always these big ticket items like HS2, like other big infrastructure pieces that the government's putting in, and that does often skew spending. But what I want to see is not just on transport, which is a very narrow view, across all public spending, whether that be the amount of money you spend on the NHS or your local hospitals. I want to see that levelled across our country, which is why we've got the candidates to sign up to this pledge. It's not going to be easy. We're trying to reverse 40 years at least where the north-south divide has grown, where there's been more spending in London than there has in the south of England. It's not an easy task, but I do think Northern MPs coming together, campaigning together, and in fact, just today, you've seen the Northern newspapers coming together with a unified front page, shows that the North won't forget, as the headline says. The North won't forget the fact that we back this government, and we expect this government to back us, Esther.